Hello! I am Mac, at least for a day, and everything's going to be okay. Today on Dreams Feature Games, we're going to be playing a game called Paradise 2 Return to Paradise. Now, the thing that called it to my attention was that this asset that I created, Cthulhu, was used in this game. So during the course of playing this game, we're going to see Cthulhu, the Cthulhu I made, because it's in there. So we're going to go ahead and search for it. We'll go to Dream Surfing, text search, Paradise 2. Yep, Paradise 2 Return to Paradise. Now, as far as I can tell, this game is based on... I searched for a horror game just called Paradise. I couldn't find one, but there's one called Paradise Lost. So I think this is actually a sequel to Paradise Lost. It's a game a lot like it. In Paradise Lost, I read the description of it. It is also a Lovecraftian or cosmic horror, first-person horror game. So I'm guessing Paradise 2 will be a lot like that. And of course they used my Cthulhu, so I'm going to reset my progress. I started playing this a little bit, but then I decided to stop and do it as a special video. Paradise. Now, my only complaint so far is that they turned the glow up too much on the title. You can't even read it, but it says Paradise 2 Return to Paradise. A forbidden tome speaks of terrible gods, dreaming our world an illusion, a facade. In Paradise. I can only take you so far. Stooped and squinting, the driver went about the dial between static and snippets of newscasts. He settled on a distant station playing a mournful violin. Bridge has been out. Racing towards the hamlet of Wolcott, the rain sleeted diagonally. The radio crackled in time with the thunder, and my childhood home stood perched on its lonely Atlantic bluff, half pulled into the sea the last I left it. Little ford up the way can get you across. I wouldn't know why you'd want to. Weather won't help, and I can't wait around to watch you be swept off. The old pickup groaned and lurched into a muddy turnaround. Red eyes hid in the woods. They widened, then scattered as the truck door slammed shut. I'm not going to ask why. And the tail lights were the last I saw of him. The red eyes of the pickup had now gone too. So far this seems kind of like a visual novel. Oh, well, it's playable now. Ooh, nice. Cool. Wanted me to press X there, but I don't know why. Oh. Okay. I pressed X. Oh! It activates dialogue. I'm going to go back and see what this dialogue was. But I missed them. There we go. The river ran fast. Swollen by the rain, it pushed up and against the quickly receding banks. Huge swaths cut away and tumbled downstream. Large flotsam careened past, smashing into pieces, then disappearing under the churning water. Finding my footing, I crossed with great care. I hadn't come all this way to be pulled away with current. It's supposed to be with the current. As the wet stones beneath my feet began to give way, the final steps had me holding my breath. Water violently ripped away the only way out of town. So this game definitely has very strong writing. And I just realized something. There's a lot of stats in dreams. There's different auras that you can have. Design, um, audio, play, curation. But there's one thing you can't be in dreams is you can't be a writer. There's no writer stat. It'd be really cool if they made a stat that increased whenever you're typing into the dialogue boxes and stuff, so that your aura could become that of a writer. That would be cool. Odd-looking moths circled the lantern. Flitting about the glow, they seemed to be undaunted by the downpour. One ventures too close every so often, but it's soon replaced by another arriving. Past them, the hillside drops off into the sea. So this guy would definitely have a writer aura if that was something that was possible, since he's written so much in the dialogue boxes. Termites have built a sprawling colony, a vast universe hidden in a heap of dirt. Most would pass and not even notice the meticulous empire honed by thousands working as one. The rain has done damage, but you can see patched holes all along the face, some older than others. How long have they been building this? The network of tunnels loop in on themselves at points and seem to go much farther underground. What's this doing out here? Glyphs and ruins scratched in with charcoal spilled from the book. Long strings of text lined the edges of each page. The lettering was unfamiliar. Maybe some type of cipher? Setting the book back in my far periphery, I caught a shadow dart from the cave. I called out, but all that returned was my echo. The rain lashed my face as I set off in pursuit. An enormous stone pillar rises from the swirling clouds. It seems to have been one of many, but the last to have held on against the sea. Carvings adorn the entire length. It has been sat out here, a sentinel, for as long as I can remember. Whatever it housed or held up crumbled ages ago. Which way do I go now? Up this way. There we go. I like how this character moves. It's kind of funny. I think he might be using the bicycle leg setting for the different puppet tweaks. Oh, okay. I didn't know I was still playing. Thought it was just a cutscene. Here we go. The village sunk in on itself and seemed deserted save for a few dimly lit homes. I steeled myself and headed for the square nestled in the center of a claustrophobic network of streets. From there, it would only be a short walk to Old Town, where my mother's house stood empty since her death. Passing places I had played as a child gave me an unsettling sense of deja vu. The town hadn't changed in any significant way since I left, at least not in any way I could tell while rushing down the twisting side streets. My mind wandered to old friends stuck at the age I left them, dreamlike now, a childhood spent mindlessly adhering to draconian rules with no idea why. There was a reason why I left, a reason my mother pushed me out and forbade me to never return. The rain came down in sheets. I could see the square just up ahead. 10 years crawled by in an eon. My release came with a letter. My mother had passed. So he has some sections that are like little novels, little novel scenes where you just read, and then you have these gameplay scenes where you can walk around. That's pretty cool. Pretty neat game format. Is this locked? The iron gain to Old Town is welded fast. I can still see lights on in houses further down. That's impossible. The only way around would be to scale the cliffs by the unfinished bridge. It looks like an old weld, too, worn by the harsh weather. Why would they seal off a whole section of the village, and with people still inside? Looks like someone or something tried to climb over, as a piece of red fabric and some fur are caught on the spikes lining the top of the gate. Creepy. Can I go this way? Yep. Knocking on the door brought no immediate reply. I could hear hurried shuffling from within. Whoever was inside was making no illusions about being out. After quite a long time, a voice croaked from behind the door. There is nothing for you here, in this house, village, or otherwise. The hurried shuffling resumed, and I knocked again to no answer. Noticing a red banner with the moon floating under a great pyramid, I turned back to the square. Ooh, the plot thickens. Man, so many things to read. The wall tumbled down into an endless nothing. For a single strange moment, I felt myself wanting to leap in. Collecting myself, I turned away, but not before hearing what I thought were voices from deep down inside the well. Years ago, the government came in to build this bridge. No one asked for it, and my mother insisted they weren't here just to build it. Proving her right, one day they ceased work and left, suspiciously, like they didn't find what they were looking for or didn't like what they found, leaving behind this bridge to nowhere. What bridge? I'm not sure what bridge he's referring to. Through the broken pane of the window, I could see a disheveled man rocking a swaddle. Every so often he looks around alarmed before turning his attention to whatever he cradles in his arms. A shrill cry from the bundle, and I am almost knocked from my feet. My fumbling draws the man to the window, but I was able to duck out of sight. Hidden in the rain, I crept from the window. Oh man. So many little details. A lot of this is implied by the writing. Not necessarily in the game, but it's a cool way to do it. Oh my. What the? That's weird. These buildings don't seem to fit in this area. And that definitely doesn't fit. Capitulate. I fell into an abyss, total darkness. I could feel myself being pulled through the never-ending black, pulsating, luminescent tendrils then spread out before me, multiplying. Oh darn. Holding my breath, I fought against their grip, tightening around my ankles and wrists. They were too strong and I succumbed. Dang, it's too fast for me to read. Luckily, you can pause the video to read what it said. The smell of flowers pulled me back from a distance somewhere out in the cosmos. I was stirred from an uneasy sleep to find myself being watched over by a girl about my age. She slept in an ornate chair, hands folded in her lap. Candlelight flickered off red and purple blossoms filling the room. Large blue flowers bloomed from plants hung from the ceiling. Outside, the rain still knocked, wanting to be let in. I could tell I had startled her, but her shock faded into a soft smile. Shifting to get up, she gently eased me back down. She placed a cool washcloth on my forehead and made me drink a peculiar tea from a shallow bowl. 1 second, I need a drink. of water. I'm glad you're awake. You thrashed about in your sleep like you were fighting with a demon. It's been a long time since I've seen you. I was shaken and confused, but the fog slowly rolled back and I took in the room. We were surrounded by flora, carnations, slender orchids, crawling vines, and flowers I had never seen before. The girl framed by all these swirling colors finally came into focus. I recognized her as one of the council's daughter. She had been at my apartment. 10 years have gone by since then. I tried to lift myself from the bed again, but only got as far as propping myself up on my elbows. The girl turned in her chair and peered into my eyes. Her sunken expression gave no hint to what she saw or even what she was looking for. Eventually she sighed and her gaze drifted off. I questioned her about the curious state of the village, the bridge, and the presence I had encountered there. How could she have wrested me from its infernal snare? She looked puzzled and furrowed her brow. Bridge, I dragged you from the river outside town. Seemed like you hit your head. Probably hit your head. Had I been swept away after all? She introduced herself as Olivia. Her father had stood on my committee, the ones who sentenced me to exile. My mother was the one who claimed me blasphemous. The previous night, confiding in me, she explained it was the only way I could safely leave the village. The hunting parties would track me if I fled. A mark of shame is better than being torn apart by dogs. The next day I awaited my judgment in a cell below the meeting hall. My crime was deemed punishable by exile. My mother's plan worked. Olivia looked at me knowingly, and everything just came flooding. I summed up the last 10 years as she patiently nodded along. Even though I left, the village stayed with me. I couldn't shake its hold. I tried. My mother had me speak to a woman. The woman had me speak to a man. The man recommended a facility. Guarded, I went. The doctors there assured me I had come to the right place. A sprawling acreage down south. We picked strawberries in the summer. I told her about the letter and my release. I told her of the ride to Wolcott, and nearing the end I just trailed off. When I stopped, Olivia let out a deep sigh. You should go to your mother's place. She seemed quite sure of this. I tried to explain the welded gate to Old Town, but she waved that off and insisted I go after she changes my bandage. With a soft smile, she saw me out. I stepped into the rain and headed towards my childhood home. Okay. Most of the houses in Old Town were locked and looked long abandoned. The windows were caked with a thick layer of dust, making it impossible to see inside. I could see holes chewed along the bottom of the doorframe. Looks like the rats wanted to get out of this weather too. Oop. Stuck for a second there. Rubble from fallen down and forgotten buildings lined the path through Old Town. I think this was a school back when I was a child. I distinctly remember gazing out at the ocean while ignoring the lecturer. I also remember getting caught and spending afternoons cleaning the meeting hall. On a quiet afternoon, I noticed a council member slip into a door I hadn't noticed before. But when I searched for a latch, I couldn't find a way in. What is up with this town? This town is like a cult or something. Old Town sat silent. Were the lights I had seen a hallucination? And what about the gate being welded shut? Olivia had said no one lives out here, but the lights and that presence seemed so real. I pondered my own mental state when a scrawny dog pushed its way out of the underbrush and crossed the path in front of me. Its red eyes gleamed a terrible reflection, and it turned to lumber down the way towards my mother's place. Ooh, it's very creepy here. My childhood home perched on its bluff as if awaiting my return. Far down over the cliffs, the Atlantic Ocean rolled on endlessly. The tides pushed cool air up and over the ridge, giving the whole house a chill. The gate hung open, and I didn't bother to close it as I went inside. Oh boy, what are we going to find in here? I just kicked in the front door. The lock broke easily, and there was no reason not. I never planned on coming back, and after this, there was no way anything could drag me back here. No. The smell brought back everything about the day I left. My crying mother, the council standing by as I gathered things. Oh man, he needs to shorten these, or lengthen these, make them stay longer. I can't read that fast. All these photos were taken before I was born. My father's portrait was all I've ever known of him. Rarely did my mother speak about him, and his den had been locked since I could remember. Once my mother caught me trying to pick the lock when my curiosity had boiled over. After a long lecture, she led me inside. I took it all in for 2 or 3 minutes. I remember tomes with odd runes written on the spines and the smell of pipe tobacco. With a deep sigh, my mother led me out, locked the door, and never spoke of it again. The statue always terrified me. It would serve as whatever monster I would battle from my couch fort. I had handily defeated it countless times. Looking at it again, I noticed the same runes from my father's study are carved along the edges of the large black mirror clutched in the statue's grip. Running my hands along them, I heard a faint click. I turned and saw a hidden panel slide open near the fireplace. Well, that was easy to solve. We'll go back to the fireplace in a second. I spent too many years on this old couch. After school and before testimonial, I would steal off to this couch and escape with a book. It was a solace and at different times a fortified castle, the arms serving as ramparts, and then it was a pirate ship I sailed towards adventure. Often my mother would come home to find me here asleep, only to have to rush me off to the meeting hall. I never liked testimonials as I got older. I would hide by the river, ducking the hunting parties best I could. Maybe the book, always with a book tucked under my arm. This town is definitely a cult if hunting parties hunt you down if you don't go to testimonial, whatever that is. Oh, the rug thing almost looks like Cthulhu or something. Lightning had begun to dart across the sky. From the window, each flash illuminated the village below, and I could see for quite a ways despite the fog. Far, far off, I could swear an enormous shape was moving through the fog. A particularly strong flash brought my attention to the idol set by the window. Its sullen eyes had watched me my whole life. My mother said it was an elder god. I pretended to know what that meant, but she treated it with such reverence that I did too. Cool. It took me quite a while to get the candles lit in the drawing room. The house had stood still in time. Outside, the rain continued to pour. But here, in my childhood home, the air hung frozen. I could see my younger self sat on the sofa, wasting countless hours lost in novels, my mother sewing the buttons back onto my school uniform, and hymns softly floating through the window as the choir practiced down at the meeting hall. This writing is definitely Lovecraftian style. And of course, it has already mentioned elder gods and all that. Examine the hidden panel. Ooh. Candles are spooky. The panel opened to a staircase descending into total darkness. Feeling my way along the cold, dusty walls, down the twisting stone steps, I made it down what seemed like 100 flights. I groped along the claustrophobic passage until finally I could see a low flicker of light in the chamber beyond. Someone must have been here recently. There's no way these candles would have been lit this long. Yeah. I entered a monstrous catacomb adorned with hundreds of candles. Their soft light danced off chilling statues surrounded by piles of bone. One out of dozens caught my eye as I crept through the tomb. Its skeletal visage shrouded in the same robes as the council. Not the robes they had on at teachings, or even the special garments they wore during my judgment. These were robes I had only seen once before. As I studied the grotesque, it's not going to tell us what the once before is yet. As I studied the grotesque figures lining the wall, the telltale barking that preceded a hunting party ripped through the hush of the catacomb. They were close and approaching. I managed to squeeze myself through the bars of a nearby gate. I took off down the darkened corridor. Headlong into the abyss. Run! Like I said, a lot of this game is implied through the writing, but it's still pretty cool. It is pretty hard to animate all this stuff. I mean, I'm doing a lot of animating in my game that I'm making right now, and it is hard to do a whole lot of animation. The boxes were marked with the name Nakamura. Weren't they the company that got in trouble with the government over some biological testing a few years ago? I remember seeing their CEO on the news while I was in treatment. I don't have time to break them open now, but I wonder what is inside. Well, now I'm curious what was down the other way. 'Cause I bet this is the right way to go. Does anyone like that in video games? You backtrack a lot because you think you missed something and you don't want to go the right way first, you want to go the wrong way so you can see the extra stuff. I think it's a common condition. Oh, there's so many different ways to go. I'm just gonna have to guess, I guess. Ew. Yellow slime writhes within a huge vat. It pushes against the glass, making a sound similar to walking on a frozen lake. It seems to recoil as I approach. When I put my hand on the container, the slime rushes away, leaving the hollow section in the shape of my hand. Next to the vat are large tanks of powerful antiseptic. Aesthetic and antiseptic are very different words. A strangely shaped skull sits on crates marked with the name Nakamura. Its odd features paint a creature with a bulbous nose and a wide, gaping mouth set with giant teeth. The sunken eye sockets must have held massive eyes. The lower jaw is missing from the skull. The ladder stretches into the darkness. It must be 5 or 6 stories tall, where the top disappears into the shadows, making it hard to tell. Way up in the dark, I can see lights descending rapidly. It must be another party attempting to pincer me. I should find another way out. Okay, good. I'm glad this is a dead end. I didn't want to go to the exit already. I've already been all... Oh! Lots of blood. Had the hunting party already been this way? The pools are fresh. This looks more like they were killed instead of what they have been hunting. Okay, good. My instincts were correct. This over here is the right way to go. My gamer instincts are tingling. I think this is probably another dead end. Oh yeah, this is the way I was earlier. Oh, I see. There was two other ways leading to this corridor. So this must be the last way to go. Maybe? Oh yeah, some kind of puzzle in here. Machinery whirs at an incredible pace. It seems like some type of pumping system. Gauges show pressure, level, and placement of water. The lines run off the machine and snake their way through the catacomb. Ugh, I watched a video, or was it a video? No, I read an article about... No, it was a video. I watched a YouTube video about, like, several different modern cults and stuff. It was pretty surprising how many different cults there are out there and how many people buy into them. This seems to be the control panel to the machinery. Lights and levers decorate the front. One switch is marked hatch, and throwing it lets off an enormous blast of steam. The hatch in the corner of the room clatters open as rushing water can be heard draining from within. So I guess that opened this hatch over here. Yeah. I'm not in control right now. The hatch led lower beneath the village than I thought would be possible. With the pumps someone had installed, it seems huge caverns were emptied and built into a complex designed for God knows what. Dust choked me as I pushed forward. Stone walls gave way to industrial steel-plated hallways, and I was running at top speed. My feet heavy, each step echoed a dozen times or so. Turning a sharp bend, I came into brilliant light. That was a really cool animation when it transitioned out here. Driving in headlong, I felt everything melt away. Ooh, that must be the chapel. I've tried using that chapel asset before. It has really high graphics, so it's hard to use because it takes up most of your file space. Sorry. Yeah, that definitely looks like a Cthulhu or Elder God symbol up there. A lonely church, an island in a green sea. Plains stretch around it as far as you could see, and then I imagined quite a ways more. It radiated tranquility, and I floated towards its grace. Almost imperceptible in the bottom reaches of my primitive brain, something whispered. I strained to make out what it was saying, but it fell away in the wind. For a long time I quietly stood there, hoping it would come back on the breeze. A loud moan bellowed from the church, and the monolithic wooden doors began to swing open. Slowly they parted to reveal an Eden beyond that was thought possible by man. Enter. Ooh, nice. I've seen that stained glass asset before. And this scene is probably from the Spring Jam. I saw a lot of scenes like this in the Spring Jam. Let me guess, it's going to be a trick and it's going to turn into something else. Confess. No, whoa, this is the council he keeps talking about. I kneeled before the council. The dread, the wave of horror, their severe eyes all piercing my tormented being. Needles and knives into the furthest depths of my nightmares. Red-hot slices through gray matter. I was left a husk. Cast from the village, spiraling, doubt clouded the next few years. Fog rolled in off the harbor. The last violent incident was what prompted my mother to set up an evaluation. Her letter had an address and I went. I should have never told her what I did to that man. It was hard to hold it in. It was hard to hold anything in after leaving Wolcott. The receptionist had lizard eyes. I spent the next 8 years down south. The council loomed over me. Now, then, the in-between, always keeping a red eye focused on my mind. I dreamed in rules, scripture, order. My place was subservience. Don't speak, don't see. My black X is writ large, but unwritten is the one next to my family name. My father's death, an open secret. What did he know? The council loomed over us. Resist. Whoa. Freaky. Keep running. Okay, I'm running. Do I have to run? I guess so. Defy. Whoa. Persist. This is a pretty cool sequence. Uh-oh, where am I? Oh, there I am. Refuse. Confront. That was a pretty cool sequence. I liked how that was paced. Okay. I'm in space now, I guess? Can't... Oh, I had to press triangle to close, apparently. Okay, now I'm in a... asylum or something? Oh, older god statues. Nightmarish idols twisted by the darkness. Their sallow expression unflinching against the horrors of the deepest cosmos. Crawling with distinctly alien-looking insects, the idols groan a mad hymn. I really like Lovecraftian style games. One of my first horror games I ever played, and one of my favorite horror games ever, was Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem on the GameCube. At the time, I didn't know anything about H.P. Lovecraft, but I know now that it was a very Lovecraftian style game. The writing especially was Lovecraftian style. Now I know why I liked it so much. There we go. I spent years sitting at this desk. They tried to wipe my slate clean. No matter how much they spoke of my indoctrination, I'm convinced they had no idea how far the roots reached. I wanted to be better. They meant well. There was just something wretched set a little deeper manipulating the strings. So it's kind of going through his life. He was exiled from the cult that he grew up in. Then he's trying to lead a normal life outside now. Whoa. Nice. Oh boy. Withstand. Withstand? Yeah, I guess withstood is a word. I floated in the ether. The presence laid bare before me collapsed time and space, its tendrils weaved through the fabric of reality, each physically speaking, a different dead tongue. A dread struggled somewhere deeper in the abyss. Across a great distance, I knew it had come for me. Fight. I kicked against the pole, thrashing, determined. The abyss fought back, tightening around my neck. An oily tendril gripped in with 1,000 little jagged teeth. The life slipped away from my body. Then again, the faintest whisper drifted into my mind. The drone of the abomination threatened to silence it. But once more, this final time, it was just loud enough to make out. It said, "Endure." And this is the scene that has my asset in it. The cell prevented things from getting out. Everything else crept in. See, there's Cthulhu. That's the Cthulhu I made. The bugs, snakes, and crows were the least threatening. When the demons first pushed through the walls, I recoiled in terror. Sights that would drive any man insane soon shared the cramped cell with a near-broken psyche. Madly clawing at the walls, the flesh on my fingertips tore away. A fever soon set in, and the shadows menaced about the cell, tauntingly prodding my sanity. Muttering cruel prophecy, they began to be allowed in. So is this something that happened past in his life? Was he kept in an asylum previously? The eyes of the demon were each a distant swirling galaxy. Bathed in the light of the cosmos, I nearly gave in. Succumbed to whatever fate lay waiting in the pale. After however many nights, the door of my cell creaked open. Oh. Well, we're playing. So is this present, or is this a flashback to previous in his life? I think it's probably just a surreal dream, by the looks of this. This game is really cool. I like it a lot. Uh-oh. Don't do it! No! Who was that? Was that my mother? Or someone else? Oh, Olivia had found me in shambles. She used all her body weight to slide the heavy cell door open. So this is present day. Light poured in and filled every crack in the stone. Pushing back all the spiders and roaches, her voice roused me from my fugue. We have to leave. They don't know I'm here. She hoisted me to my feet, and I slumped right back to the dank cell floor. Where are we? My lungs barely held breath, and it was all I could get out. Gritting my teeth, Olivia helped me to my feet again. Every muscle ached. My eyes shot red and glazed. I collected myself as Olivia spoke hurriedly and hushed, under Wolcott, very deep down. I assumed as much as I pressed further. She must know something of what's going on if she knew enough to find me here. They're here to kill the council, and they know it. The letter, your return, stopping all this cruel revenge. They know. The curtain had been pulled back. Still working. Oh, still working. Still working means he's still working on the game. Okay, so that's all there is to the game so far. This was really good. I did not expect to have such a cool sort of visual novel slash horror game kind of thing. I, as you can tell, I've never played Paradise Lost, but I assume it was the same kind of style. So he's probably emulating that style of horror game. But man, this is really good. His name is Slamdonahue. So Slamdonahue is a really good writer. Unless he ripped off the writing somewhere else, he did a lot of really good writing in this game. And some of the sequences are really cool, like when you were running down that hallway in hell or wherever it was with the fire, and it kept telling you to endure and defy and all that stuff. That was a really cool sequence. But yeah, I will definitely keep checking out this game. I'll follow it, and I'm going to follow. Oh, I'm already following Slamdonahue. And I will keep up with this game and play it more. But that is what has been made so far in Paradise 2 Return to Paradise. A very cool Lovecraftian style game, and it used an asset that I made. So anyway, I have been Mac. Thank you for joining me for a day. And remember, everything is going to be okay.